What I'm going to pitch to you today is probably one of the biggest crossover films since The Avengers. Horror fans have begged for a movie like this for decades, and even though these characters aren't necessarily under the same production studio umbrella, I think it's too good not to do. This movie would be a cinematic and box office slam dunk. As a fan of both of these characters and the horror genre as a whole, I understand that Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers going at it in a film isn't a relatively fresh idea, but it's an idea that I believe needs more attention due to how valuable it could be. So while this isn't a new idea, it is my idea, and I believe it can make waves. Also, for the purposes of this video, I plan on only brushing over the main points rather than every detail, so some storylines would only be mentioned once and then skimmed over for the rest of the video. Anyways, what you clicked on this video for, here is my story idea for the incredible crossover that is Jason versus Michael. Camp Crystal Lake. On an October night, Friday the 13th, a group of classic horror movie victims, also known as teens, party at Camp Crystal Lake. Of course, Jason Voorhees attacks. Blood is spilled and bodies are slashed. The few remaining teens are able to escape, including our main character for the story, Ethan Jarvis. As in Friday the 13th's main, most consistent protagonist, Tommy Jarvis's nephew. But as the teens escape, Jason is able to tear off the bumper as they speed away. For the first time in the series, we see Jason alone with his thoughts. He goes to his cabin and returns to his mother's decapitated head, holding the bloody bumper with a Haddonfield High School sticker. His mother tells him,
"Look what they did to you, Jason. Kill them."
For the next 2 weeks, Jason will stalk his way to Haddonfield, Illinois. In Haddonfield, October 30th, the town prepares for the holiday that's long been scarred by the past. Speaking of scarred, Ethan talks to a therapist about what had happened. Upon returning, the teens tried to tell everyone about what happened at Camp Crystal Lake. However, no one believed them, not even Ethan's parents, particularly because they come from a town with such a violent past. They all, including the police, consider their stories to be inappropriate. The only person that does believe them, however, is located at the Smiths Grove State Hospital, Tommy Jarvis. At the hospital and on a dark and stormy night, Ethan and his love interest visit his uncle Tommy. Tommy Jarvis, after the Friday the 13th films, was seen as delusional and kept in mental hospitals for safety. Over time, Tommy became more comfortable with the idea that the events of those films didn't happen, and as he was moved closer to his family who lived in Haddonfield, there lived Tommy. Until now. Ethan and his friend meet Tommy, and they discuss what had happened at Camp Crystal Lake. This revitalizes Tommy's fears and anxieties, but also the fury he has for the hockey-masked killer. But before Tommy can warn them to stay away, crash! The emergency lights come on, and the hospital is on lockdown, because Jason has tracked them down. In his pursuit of Ethan and the teens, he busts up a stretch of hospital rooms and cells, one housing the dreaded Shape. Jason faces off with the crew, and he and Tommy reconnect with a silent and deadly understanding. Now, they hunt each other. But to throw one more wrench into the mix, the Shape, Michael Myers, retrieves his mask from the storage room. And before Jason Voorhees can kill the Jarvises, Michael attacks. In their first bloody fight, Jason and Michael get into a bash, slaying anyone and everyone between them. This fight ends with Jason thrown from a top-story window, and when Michael looks to see if he's still there, he's gone. Everyone escapes that night, terrified for the next day. The crew returns to Tommy Jarvis's old house. As of right now, the police are searching for every escapee involved, including Ethan and his friend, as they both seem to have broken out Ethan's uncle Tommy. Tommy doesn't have time to worry, as his anger toward Jason only lusts for revenge. So much so, that instead of talking about it, Tommy silently arms himself as if he were Jason too. During the day, Jason Voorhees stalks the teens who escaped him weeks before throughout the town, and to the school. However, the stalker becomes stalked as Michael Myers is close behind. Both separately watch the town prepare for what will soon be a deadly holiday. At Haddonfield High, the same school that Laurie Strode would attend in the 70s, the other teens not involved in the prison break would attend the school as if nothing happened. Some are still rattled from the Friday the 13th attack, but others are typical jerks that got away with it. As the school day goes on, the teens begin to suspect that they're being watched. It's soon revealed that not only Michael Myers, but Jason Voorhees are there. They run from their potential attackers and escape into the basement, where one teen is slain by both Jason and Michael. Jason and Michael, after their temporary alliance, battle. The teens barely escape with their lives, especially with the help of Tommy and Ethan Jarvis. They make the save and try to gun down both killers, but to no avail. The only person that's able to help them in some way, as Laurie Strode makes her big entrance into this film. Laurie Strode's house. In this film, Laurie is going to take on somewhat of a Dr. Loomis type role, having studied criminal psychology and gone into law enforcement after Halloween. In an act of fan service, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing, Laurie Strode and Tommy Jarvis argue over what to do, two of horror's biggest final girls. The Jarvises and the teens are freaked out and don't know what to do, but Laurie is able to convince them that it's now their responsibility to protect this town and stop Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees from killing again. How will they do that? Laurie has concocted a plan to simply knock them out cold, but now they have to find them. Knock the killers out cold. But now they have to find them. Night falls over Haddonfield, and it's Halloween and time for scares. As Michael Myers stalks a victim, one of the teens from the school, he comes to find in a somewhat comedic reveal that they've already been killed. This is where audiences get scenes similar to the best of both franchises. Simply put, Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees, in their pursuit of the Jarvises and one another, go on a killing spree. We see some of the goriest, bloodiest, most creative kills ever in either franchise, each trying to slay one of the teens from the opening in their search for the Jarvises, and now Laurie Strode. Luckily, Laurie and the gang have laid a trap for them too. As they're distracted with a big bloody battle at a party, they're locked in a confined space. Barely getting away, the teens knock both killers out cold with some chemical formula Laurie had. Finally, they have defeated their killers and will begin to cut them into pieces one by one, ending this horrific saga once and for all. If only it were that simple. Not just any man.
You shouldn't have buried me. I'm not dead.
That is right. This film isn't simply the first time audiences will get to see Jason versus Michael, but also a secret sequel to the original slasher crossover event, Freddy vs. Jason. In that film, Jason manages to beat Freddy in their ultimate fight, and in my story, as Jason doesn't sleep, Freddy was trapped within Jason's soulless body for decades. But now that Laurie and the teens have knocked Jason out, Freddy is able to break free. Freddy having arrived and attacked a teen, the serum wears off of both Jason and Michael, and they join Freddy in slaying the teens all together. But Freddy is a lot more interested in getting his revenge on Jason. The three ultimately battle, some more teens die, and the rest escape. Back at Laurie Strode's home, the remaining living protagonists discuss what just happened and where to go from there. Coincidentally, Laurie had tapes of someone discussing a killer that reminds her of Freddy Krueger, in which they can get some evidence from. When she plays the tapes, the person discussing Freddy is revealed to be Nancy Thompson. As a fan who wants to respect the continuities of each franchise, seeing Tommy Jarvis, Laurie Strode, and Nancy Thompson together on one screen would be legendary. From Nancy, they learn many vital facts, including how Freddy is able to attack. However, in an evil bit of foreshadowing before this reveal, one of the teens in the group falls asleep out of fear and exhaustion. The group don't mind it at the time, but of course, hearing this news, things change. Behind the group as they listen, this teen is sucked into the couch as they sleep, a la Johnny Depp in the first Nightmare on Elm Street. In a massive blood shower, Freddy arrives, and everyone scatters. Coming into the ultimate climax in Haddonfield, our main characters are scattered around the city being terrorized and ripped apart by 3 of the biggest slashers to ever live. I have one scene in mind reminiscent of the cornfield scene in Freddy vs. Jason, where the 3 massacre a whole Halloween party of teens in glorious, bloody fashion. Eventually, the 3 ultimately battle, leading them to the Myers house. As the 3 fight, Laurie Strode and Tommy Jarvis join, ultimately causing the house to burn down around them. In the big finale, Michael, Jason, and Freddy are trapped in the building as they're killed. The protagonists make it out, and the slashers eventually are dragged down to hell. If they can't battle while living, they'll battle in hell for all eternity. The days after, the town and our heroes recover, but not without one more cool crossover. To ensure that these killers stay in hell, Laurie Strode and Tommy Jarvis contact a particular man with an expertise on the paranormal undead kind.
Lady, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store.
Who the hell are you?
Name's Ash. Housewares.
And those are the basic story beats of what would be my Jason versus Michael. Thanks for watching. I hope everything makes sense. I rushed the ending a little bit because it's less fun to talk about the fights and the kills rather than just see them, which I don't have the budget for. Anyways, let me know what you thought of this idea down in the comments and maybe suggest some of your own ideas. That would be really cool. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.